The team was clouded by the same familiar hazy feeling. Time felt distorted in this dreamy state. The members woke up to completely new scenery. They were standing on a spacious empty area to the side of an old-looking street. On the empty land was a crudely made basketball hoop. Several black teenagers were playing near the hoop. Independence Day, huh? Zheng and the other members got up from the ground. They carefully observed the surrounding area. Zheng looked down at his watch, which displayed the team's mission in this world. Many things became inconvenient after he lost the leader privileges. Still lying on the ground were the members who were trapped in the dream world and one other man and 2 women. If they were to include Imhotep and Aang Sunamun in the count, that made the team 19 people, which also stated the difficulty of the movie. This difficulty was almost the highest level possible. While Zheng muttered the name of the movie, the words displayed on the watch turned his face serious. The rest of the veterans gradually turned to their watches after a while. He said with a hint of bitterness, "Speak of the devil and he will surely come. We were talking about team battles and there it is we got into one. This movie is 19 people difficulty plus team battle. We also have several members still in their dreams. No Psyche Force user. Our use of cultivation technology is still primitive. We are in a pretty dangerous situation." The watch displayed. Survive 3 days. Bonus mission, destroy the mothership. Rewards each team member 2 rank B rewards and 7,000 points. Individual flying devices are restricted in this movie. Not allowed to leave Washington until 1 hour before the attack. Team Pacific has entered the world in advance. Killing each member of the opposing team rewards 2,000 points and 1 rank C reward. Killing each member that unlocked the genetic constraint rewards 7,000 points and 1 rank B reward. Score -1 for losing 1 member. Score +1 for killing a member of the opposing team. Final score multiplied by 2,000 is added to the rewards. Zheng gave a bitter laughter. Worse yet, Team Pacific entered before us. What a mixed feeling this is. We are rated higher than this team but they have the advantage of influence from entering earlier. Should I feel lucky or should I sigh? What are you thinking, Xian? Xian was the only person who didn't look at his watch nor take in the surrounding area. He stood there with a frown on his face. It seemed as though he was confused by something. Seeing Xian's face didn't change from the question, Zheng tapped his shoulder. Hey, I am asking you. Are you scheming again? Speak. I have come to hate your schemes with passion. Xian raised his head to look at Zheng. He said with a frown. What do you think of Team China, you and everyone here? What I mean is, do you think we are righteous or evil? The members came up to him. Zero said. Not exactly righteous or evil. We are no more than people who struggle in the movie worlds. Just to survive we will repeat what we have done in the mummy's world. This is us. Xian nodded. Yes. We are neither righteous nor evil. We act differently based on the situation we are in, just like in the last movie. However, God records our acts and puts us in different factions once we are in the plot depending on our rating of good and evil. Do you still remember the movie with Team India? We were on the side of the main characters and they were on the side of Imhotep. In Starship Troopers, we were on the human side and the team that enslaved newbies was on the arachnid side. I haven't evaluated the rating calculation for good and evil yet. Things like how many points are deducted for killing a teammate. Or how many points are deducted for killing a movie character. One thing for certain is the act we committed in the mummy's world, massacre of over 100 million, would made our points plummet. Yet, why are we still on the side of humans? My original speculation was we should be on the antagonist side. Zheng had entered the 3rd stage to emulate Honglu's thinking process. He frowned after a while. That doesn't sound right. Although we could confirm the existence of good and evil alignments, the acts in the mummy also rejected this conjecture. If killing a teammate deducts 10,000 points and killing a movie character deducts 1 point, the 100 million that we killed should push us toward evil way further ahead of any other team. Doesn't it? Xian sneered without replying. He turned around to look at the other members, which gave the whole team a fright. A bizarre thought arose in their minds. Did he want to test the speculation by killing someone? This was a team battle and 1 death means -1 point in score, an outcome that affected the whole team. Xian didn't act as they thought. He raised his head and looked up to the sky. What is evil to you? This dude, why does he feel so strange? Like a person with emotion sighing over a fact. Did he unlock the 4th stage? Impossible. When had he ever struggled on the brink of death? He always put other people on the brink of death. Did he really unlock the 4th stage? Zheng was utterly shocked. Cheng Xiao said. Evil. Evil acts? For evil acts, they refer to things that you are not allowed to do. Evil in philosophy. Xian glanced over the team. Everyone expressed confusion before he even began the explanation. He sighed and said. To put it simply, evil is sin. A sin that you believe is one. So evil varies between people. One thing you believe is evil and another believes is not. If social morals accepted by the majority of people do not exist, then there do not exist good and evil to an individual. Zheng, do you remember how God judged whether we leaked the existence of God's realm when you returned to the real world? Zheng paused for a second and said. It was based on whether we have the memory of committing the act. You mean God judges a team's alignment by the feeling of sin we have in our minds? If we tortured a person or if we did something hideous like a massacre, the memory of the sin will be labeled evil. However, if we help someone, the satisfaction and benevolence will be labeled good. Correct. Xian nodded. Since the inheritance of the cultivators of the East contains both refined chi possessed by the righteous sex and magic possessed by the evil sex, God does not judge a team's good and evil in narrow definitions. Neither would God prefer good over evil. The two are nothing more than alignments that both belong to mankind. God would not give an advantage to any team in the movie world based on their good rating. We and the other team are standing on equal grounds. Xian then frowned. Even though we killed over 100 million, the magic cannon was fired from extremely long range. The massacre did not trigger overly strong emotion in us. Like what we have said, we are merely struggling in this realm. We are forced to do what we have to do. If we do not witness these deaths with our eyes and have a sufficient self-explanation, 100 million people are simply a number. In a war, the troops that are least likely to develop any PTSD are the Air Force. We are in a similar position. Our evil rating isn't high compared to the team that we are up against. Now that we have learned so many conditions, we can deduce the opposing team. 1. They have a lot of members, at least 19 when including the newbies. 2. Their evil rating is extremely high. They know that the acts they have committed are evil. 3. Their team rating is decent even though they are weaker than us. God selected them as an opponent to a team that defeated Team Celestial. Based on these three conditions, there's a 60% probability that Team Pacific was the team we encountered in Starship Troopers. These two teams possess the same nature, a few strong members enslaving most weaker members. The strong members have powerful enhancements, bloodlines, genes, abilities, weapons, and equipment. This is the kind of team we are likely up against. Zheng exhaled. Before he could say anything, clouds of flame rose on the horizon. A wave of red mist swept toward them like fire descending from the sky. As the flame slowly subsided, a huge black object revealed itself in the center. It was the size of the city below and floated in the sky. This was the mothership featured in Independence Day. It was a command vessel that carried countless smaller vessels inside and had a weapon that could destroy a city in one shot. Furthermore, it had a barrier strong enough to defend against nuclear weapons. This was a sky fortress impenetrable by mankind in this world. Independence Day began. Team China was free to leave the area with the appearance of the sky fortress. Strangely though, the newbies still hadn't woken up. This deviated from the usual course of events. Zheng frowned as he looked at the people lying on the ground and at the castle in the sky. He muttered. Anyway, let us assume the other team is with the aliens. The movie world has begun, so we need to plan our next move clearly. The watch says we can't leave Washington until an hour before the attack. Does that mean we are in Washington right now? The scenery surrounding the team was chaotic. Pedestrians froze in place as they stared at the huge flying object descending toward them. The young men near the basketball hoop looked up to the sky while the ball rolled down a drain. Drivers came out from their taxis and then the cars behind crashed into the empty taxis. Yet, not one person moved their eyes away from the sky to look at what's happening on the ground. It's shocking. Even I am feeling the same astonishment, not to mention these people. This thing is enormous. It almost shrouded the whole city underneath. That's alien technology, Hung muttered as he looked up. Everyone nodded in agreement. The two people who were shocked the most were Imhotep and Ang Sunamun. They had just left the 40s of last century where civilian-use airplanes hadn't even come into being. One of them was actually a living fossil from thousands of years ago. The other was a girl with memory from thousands of years ago. The two had barely gotten used to living in the mummy's world, and this shocking scene felt like a world in fantasies to them. Zhen noticed the two people's unease. He patted Imhotep on the shoulder and said with a laughter. Don't worry. You will get used to it once you experience more. This world is similar to our real world, except for the alien sky fortress above us. Just ask if you have any questions. This is a team battle. Maybe you will get enough points and rewards in this battle to exchange for what you want. So stay alive. The bald man smiled. He grabbed Ang Sunamun's hand tenderly and said. I am unkillable, I only worry about her. She's not like me nor you guys. She's just a normal person. I wish your plan can accommodate her safety if possible. Zhen nodded. He didn't tell Imhotep what would have happened in The Mummy Returns between the two of them. He could tell that Imhotep truly loved Ang Sunamun even though they had been apart for thousands of years. This love never changed. Ang Sunamun on the other hand remained a mystery to Zheng. She got together with Imhotep due to multiple reasons. He was handsome and young. She was jealous of the pharaoh's daughter. And maybe she wanted to get revenge on the pharaoh. She didn't choose Imhotep for pure love, which led to her betrayal when he most needed her in The Mummy Returns. Everything has changed. They are not the same people that are in The Mummy. In the movie, Imhotep forced Ang Sunamun's soul into this body. The two minds inside the body collided with each other. Furthermore, they hadn't been together too long, so she might have felt lost near the end of the movie. However, the two people here have lived together for so many years now. Even if she was vicious in nature, being together with someone that loved her should have sparked the fire of love. Hope I am not harming him. Zhen wouldn't say the team's strength took a leap with Imhotep joining Team China, but an unkillable priest, especially when he had a hold of the Book of the Dead, was immensely useful in numerous situations. In the least, he was more capable at utilizing the Book of the Dead than anyone else. Imhotep and Ang Sunamun aside, everyone in Team China was recalling the movie. This was a sci-fi movie about alien invasion of the Earth. The alien civilization was more technologically advanced. Their mothership was nearly the size of a piece of land and traveled several light years of distance in the universe to arrive at this planet. Their lower-tier vessels were also the size of cities. The aliens crushed mankind in terms of technology, even over mankind's nuclear bombs. In the end of the movie, humans accidentally discovered computer viruses could infect and disturb the vessel's defense system, which led to the victory of this war. Without this discovery, mankind would only end in annihilation. Aliens transmitted information through man-made satellites. The information contained a countdown, which when reached 0 would signal the city destroyers to open fire at the city. Washington was demolished by the volley in the movie. Team China was in the city that was going to be demolished. Okay. Talk after we get on the car. 0 and Wang's yacht, find a bus or large vehicle that can fit the 19 of us. We will try and find a way to head to the border of the city since God forbids us from leaving the city within this time. I remember the movie shows a traffic jam as civilians all rush to leave when the fortress descends. We need to get to the border ahead of time so we can leave quickly when the time comes. Xian, analyze our situation. Zheng said to Xian since most of the team were still staring at the sky. Xian was looking through his storage bag instead. Zheng wondered what was inside that had him looking so engrossed. Xian replied. Assume the other team is with the aliens and arrived earlier than us, we are at a disadvantaged position. Cheng Xiao said. We all know. Come on, Xian. One-shot their whole team with your superior intelligence. Impossible. Xian said. We are at an absolute disadvantaged position in this world with regard to influence. In fact, we could be wiped here if we are not careful. That's impossible. Everyone else cried. Xian sneered. Impossible. Just like the position we held in the Mummy, when the strengths between two forces are on completely different levels. Technologies during World War II couldn't rival the sky stick and magic cannon. Similarly, we can't rival the alien vessels with superior barriers, can fly, and can go into space. Keep in mind this is a barrier that can defend against nuclear strikes. Even if we shoot down this sky fortress with the magic cannon, what should we do about the mothership? We have no way of damaging it. You might think we can send a spaceship carrying nuclear bombs into space and attack the mothership like the movie did, which could be possible on a non-team battle mission. However, do you think the other team doesn't know the plot? Our spaceship would get struck down on its way. The team fell silent. Zheng sighed. Anyway, let's leave Washington first. This team battle comes at an odd time. We don't even have a leader now. We don't know who's the guide in these two newbies. And we also have to capture the other team's Psyche Force user to wake our teammates. Let's get on the car. It's too complicated. It's reasonable that we are put in a team battle without a leader. With the final battle coming near, God needs all the teams to crash with each other and accelerate this process as for a car to leave Washington? Xian shook his head. What if the plot is altered and the volley of fire becomes more powerful than the movie depicted? What if we are stuck on the road? The chance of us escaping from the attack's area of effect with the hour of time given is only 30 to 40%. Furthermore, once we left Washington, we would be in an unsalvageable position. We have to keep running and hiding for the remaining 3 days. Don't even think about capturing the other team's Psyche Force user or wiping their team at that point. Seeing no one understood the implications, Xian sighed. Do you really fail to understand? How are we going to get the alien spaceship that the United States has if we left Washington? The target of our bonus mission is the alien mothership. Then what is the other team's bonus? I speculate it has to do with Area 52 that's shown in the movie. So, whether we want to escape the attack or strike back, we must follow the main characters closely. Otherwise, we would be under constant attack by alien vessels led by the other team since we couldn't leave the atmosphere. The possibility of this happening isn't zero. We have to enter the White House and leave Washington on plane before the attack comes like the plot, then head to Area 52. Our battlefield will likely be in outer space, inside the mothership. Team China would need a bus whether they want to head to the border of the city or the White House. If they went by feet, the fire would rain down on them before they could leave the city. 20 minutes had passed since entering the movie. The two newbies woke up one after the other. In the time that Zero and Wang Xia headed out to look for a bus, the newbies moved through the phases of distrust, doubt, toward believe. The process was fairly quick because of the gigantic piece of metal floating in the sky. Even an idiot could realize something was off with this world. That's the basic situation ahem. Why does this line sound so familiar? Anyway, you are in God's realm like I mentioned. God throws us into various movie worlds and our goal is to survive in these worlds. We will obtain points and rewards, then you can choose to enhance yourselves or return to the real world. Whatever you decide. And yeah, the movie we are in is Independence Day. Zheng was explaining the specifics of the realm to the newbies and asking for their professions and backgrounds. After all, one of them could be the guide, so he took up the questioning to himself. Xian told him privately to inform him the details of the newbies before the attack came. Is he planning to use the guide to create an influence for Team China? I don't know what he's planning, but I should trust him. He hasn't disappointed us. Or you could say he always overdoes things and triggers unexpected events. In the end, we are always near the brink of death. Don't know if we should feel fortunate to have him or hate him. The two newbies weren't too old. The man was about 27, wore a pair of slim, gold-toned glasses. He looked well-mannered and educated, like a successful person who danced in the upper-class society. His face was a little weary, but he still wiped the dust off his clothes with a handkerchief the moment he woke up. No queer language came out of his mouth. Still, these little gestures and frowns he held made the handsome man seem unsightly. The woman was more normal in comparison. She was about 23 with charming facial features. Slightly chubby, but it did not take away from her beauty. Her actions were normal, which led Zheng to give her more attention. She had sharp senses and noticed the attention from Zheng and blushed a little. The man was said to be in upper management of a big company located in Hong Kong, graduated from Cambridge, possessed numerous international certificates. He was indeed a highly educated individual who became part of the upper-class society. He spoke in English when he woke up. Only upon noticing the strange looks the rest of the people here were giving him and their skin color did he change the language. First to Japanese, then Korean, and finally Mandarin. This irritated the team. The woman woke up clumsily, then screamed in panic following the normal reaction script. After a while, with no one caring about her, she carefully looked around. By the time Zheng finished explaining the realm, she sat on the ground frozen. Then she started to inquire the details of the realm. You are a computer programmer? A rare breed, women who choose this profession, but you came at the right time. This movie needs your skills. You might be able to provide us a lot of help. Zheng said, never taking his eyes off the fortress in the sky. He also split his attention to monitor if Zero and Wang Xia came back. These little things became an annoyance when they no longer had a Psyche Force user. As the thought came up, he looked over to Lan and the other members who were still in their dreams. Psyche Force aside, Honglu needs to wake up as soon as possible. With him here, we can at least know what Xian is planning. Anything's better than this fog that is blurring our minds. Zheng wondered what Xian was doing. The dude walked into a nearby electronics store after Zero and Wang Xia left. The mall was chaotic, as were the streets outside. People were running and cars were crashing into each other. Some hooligans were robbing the stores. Xian walked into a store and came back out with a laptop in hand. It seemed like he just went into his own house for a second. I don't know what you are planning, but that looked arrogant to simply walk out with a computer. It gives me an urge to beat you up. Are you planning to write a virus like the movie did? If so, she can help you. Zheng pointed at the newbies and introduced them to Xian. The man's name was Lin Junjun. His face had a resemblance to his name, Jun, meaning handsome. His language was half Chinese, half English. It felt like he had to insert a few English words into every other sentence he spoke. When he introduced himself, he demanded the others to call him Philip, as if it would change his race. His language, expressions, and gestures induced dislike. He gave off a sense of being superior to everyone else. Xian asked him a question and he began praising himself in half Chinese, half English, such as the fact he knew karate. He made it seem like it was an honor for the team to have him. Chinese likes to stay moderate and avoid standing out. It's not a good habit. Completely opposite from foreigners' courage to bear responsibilities and take on challenges. Staying moderate is the biggest obstacle to improvement. Our country does have a small fraction of people with talents in management and other fields. We call these people elites. Only when the normal majority is led by the few elites will our country not fall behind other countries. This loose structure in the current team is illogical. It would be best if the rest of the team started to ignore him as he went on. People who call themselves as the elites of society and actually were successful in the real world with fame and wealth had an abundance of confidence with their experience. They felt there was nothing they couldn't do in the world. They believed they were perfect except for the families that they were born into weren't the wealthiest. They wanted to become the leader in any situation as their confidence told them they would succeed. But this was God's realm. The woman's name was Yang Suilin. She was normal in every way compared to Junjun. When Xian asked her what did she think of the current Team China, she couldn't find an answer. However, when he asked about writing a computer virus, words flowed out like a stream of water. She probably liked her profession a lot. Those are all the hints we have. Both of them seem like the guide, but they aren't much different from normal people. Even people like Junjun aren't rare in the real world. Has Xian figured it out? Damn it. We can't even communicate privately without a Psyche Force user. Speaking of which, we have to capture the other team's Psyche Force user in this movie. Zheng didn't know if Xian figured out who the guide was. The dude asked the newbies a few questions then turned to his computer. Suilin watched him from the side with interest. Only 30%. Xian said while he was typing. I only have a 30% probability of figuring out which one continue with the movie. There's still a long time to go. We will eventually get enough hints to figure it out. So you are not omnipotent. The veterans thought and laughed to themselves. Before the team got to talk more, a bus appeared at the end of the street and were driving toward them. This bus avoided running over people on the chaotic street but not the vehicles as it bumped the vehicles on its way to the sides, clearing a road on the crowded streets. The bus stopped at the empty area the team was on. Come on in. The roads leading out of Washington are blocked. On the other hand, I couldn't see a single car on the roads leading to Washington. Let's get there while it's still early. Zero opened the back door and said with a frown. Wang Xia was on the driver's seat. The streets Team China was on were part of the ghetto, where the blacks and the poor dwelled. The majority of vehicles that drove through this area were taxis, and not that many in total. Their bus shoved straight out of the ghetto into the main roads. The vehicles here were lined up so close to each other and moved ever so slowly. Walking was sure to be the faster method. Occasionally drivers shouted curses from their cars when two cars touched each other from being too close, which slowed down the traffic even further. This scene was only happening on the way leading out the city. No vehicles were coming into the city. That did not mean the reverse side of the roads would be a smooth ride. Vehicles packed the roads, going the opposite direction they were intended for. The two-way streets became one-ways. It was a feat by itself to drive the bus into the narrow streets Team China was on through this condition. Zheng sat on the empty seat behind Wang Xia. His jaws dropped at the sight of the jammed roads. How did you manage to drive the bus to us? These roads look impossible to move through. Wang Xia gave off a bitter laughter. This bus was stopped on the side. By the time we got on the bus, the roads were jammed with cars, so we had to drive on the pedestrian walkways. Not like there are any cops at this time. But now, it looks like the pedestrian walkways are occupied too. I don't see any way we can move through. Independence Day was a sci-fi classic. Despite not being told the movie in advance, everyone had watched this movie when they were still in the real world. In the original plot, the roads leading away from the city were jammed, rendering a majority of the city's citizens unable to leave before the attack landed. Still, it was not at such intensity. The roads leading into the city were at least drivable then. The team turned to Zheng and Xian. Zheng also turned to Xian. Xian's attention was fixed on the laptop. He completely ignored what was happening around him. The newbie girl Swilin also seemed engrossed on his laptop, frequently pointing at the screen and asking questions. Junjin was talking to Imhotep in English affectionately, but the bald guy ignored him. Zheng couldn't help but said to Wang Xia, "We don't have a choice. Force our way through. A big bus won't be stopped by the little sedans. Okay. Drive ahead. And if you can't find a road, shove through your way. We are fighting with time for our lives to be bothered with these things. If the cops come, just run over them too." The rest of the team held no objections. They had experienced enough movies to know what they should do and shouldn't do. Since the team was heading to the White House, there was no need to fear the cops. If it weren't for the restriction on flying instruments, the Sky Stick would have gotten them to the destination in minutes. Furthermore, there was no reason to fear mere cops. The two newbies, Imhotep and Ang Sunamun, were shocked to hear the plan. Before they could express anything, the bus had begun to charge right ahead under Wang Xia's control. Bang! A black sedan was bumped away and hit several other cars. There was barely 7 or 8 inches of space between cars on this jammed road. The scene of a bus running straight here would have only come from action movies. Curses and screams suddenly resonated the roads. Though there shouldn't be casualties from these little bumps. The drivers and passengers were just shocked. Similarly shocked was Junshin. His face blanched, then he said to Wang Xia, "Are we going to be fine? What if the cops stop us? We don't have any passports or IDs. What if they assume we are illegal immigrants or terrorists? They shoot terrorists on the spot. Stop. We can just walk the rest of the way." Wang Xia and the rest of the members didn't bother to answer him. Zheng suddenly smiled and grabbed his collar. "Going by your English and looking like someone from the upper class, you should have been to Washington before, right? Know the way to the White House?" Junshin looked at him with a blank mind and nodded. "I can find the way, but if we went there in this manner, I feel like something would happen on the way. How about we walk there? It's just a few hours." Zheng continued with the smile. "It's not going to be a problem. A lot of things can happen in a few hours. This isn't the real world anyway. You have to be decisive or you will be impacted. Since you are going to join the team, watch and learn how to survive in a movie before you are in. Like when an American cop sees an obstacle, you blast your way through." "Blast your way through?" Junshin repeated in bewilderment. Zheng nodded. "Ho ho. Remember, anything can happen in the movie worlds. There is no guarantee to your life. So, clear your mind of all mortal concepts. Good does not exist here and neither does evil. The only rule is to survive. The only ones worth their values are your comrades. If we acknowledge you as our comrade, we will give all we have to bring you along this path. However, if we confirm that you aren't a comrade, I will kill you in the next second." An aura of pressure emanated from Zheng as he spoke. The smile on his face did not concur with the expression of his eyes. Even a regular person could sense the killing intent that he just said. Junshin's face blanched whiter than before. Zheng patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. As long as you become our comrade, we can definitely fight together. Haha. You are weak, but give it a few movies and you will become a good fighter for the team." As Zheng retrieved the aura, sweat finally rolled down Junshin's head. He laughed awkwardly. Zheng spoke again before he had a chance to say anything. "If it's for our survival, I can kill all the people here. However, we must be down in ultimate despair for that to happen. When the situation comes to either they die or we die." Haha. Junshin had forgotten about what the bus was doing while he listened to Zheng spoke. He didn't even notice anything wrong with the shaking. Those words echoed in his head. The rest of the team were enjoying the leisure as they watched the bus shoved its way through the crowded roads. A minute later, Junshin finally recovered from the shock. He was a smart person after all. Seeing that everyone looked unaffected by the scene, he didn't say anything further. He toned down his use of English and guided the way to the White House. The bus continued driving forward. The long-awaited American cops finally showed up. Police cars were stopped at the side of the roads. The moment the sirens were turned on, an even louder uproar erupted from the crowd that trumped the sirens. The noise jolted the people in the bus for a second. Cheng Xiao immediately said, "What is it? Have the Americans never seen someone run the red light? We aren't running the red light. And their cries don't have much to do with us. Zheng stuck his head out the window. A dish-shaped object was floating in the sky, approximately 1,000 meters directly above the bus. Zheng looked at the dish with a serious expression. He was about to turn to Xian when he heard his voice coming from the window next to him. Do you feel it? The feeling of being scanned by psyche force that you can sense after attaining the 4th stage. The people on the dish are probably Team Pacific. They are here to confirm our location. Everyone tensed up from hearing the message. A single shot from the dish would kill most of the people on the bus. Zheng had already drew out Tiger's soul. He grabbed the window with one hand and was in the posture to jump out. Release the yellow turban, Xian. Carry me to the sky. I can't rise 1,000 meters without the sky stick. Damn it. Never expected for the yellow turban to make its debut so fast. He turned around and prepared to jump. Xian reached over with an arm and stopped him. It's fine. We should be safe right now. Do you remember the rule that forbids us from leaving the city until an hour before the attack comes? There are a lot of ways to cross a city's distance in a short amount of time even without flying instruments, such as abilities you can exchange from God. This rule is put in place to deal with these means and restrict us to the city for the time being. This time is the compensation God gives to the weaker team in the same manner as influence. Team Pacific can scout us during this time and they are invincible. The barrier will protect them. However, God wouldn't design such an imbalanced disparity if they can fire from the sky. I believe there must be a restriction placed on their team, like they aren't allowed to attack until an hour before the attack comes. I am 90% certain we are safe. The dish began to move while Xian spoke. It flew away from the area the bus was on and then disappeared behind the shadows of the skyscrapers. Zheng took a deep breath and put away Tiger's soul. He turned to Junjin. Where is the White House? Junjin's mind was still in a shock. He hadn't switched from the real world to God's realm yet. The bus shoving on the roads, Zheng's warning, and the dish had stunned him. His eyes scanned the surroundings subconsciously, then he pointed at where the dish disappeared. The White House is probably that way. Keep going straight, then turned. Zheng grabbed his collar before he could finish. He was a bit taller than Zheng, but the difference in strength between them was huge. Zheng lifted his whole person up. Everyone hurry. I have a bad feeling. I will go to the White House first. Take care. Zero, the Sky Fortress aside, those small dishes shouldn't have the infinite light of the soul to supply their barriers like the prototype God did. Your mystic eyes should be effective against them. Be prepared to counterattack if the dishes open fire. Okay. Zheng turned his head around and said. He was already standing on the window. Zero took out the Gauss sniper rifle and nodded. Zheng felt relieved. He believed the most reliable person here was Zero, more reliable than Xian, who had the strength but zero reputation. Then I am going. Zheng carried Junjin, who was screaming, and jumped out of the bus. He stepped on the roof of a sedan and leaped again, jumping over 10 meters away. Before long, he was gone from everyone's sight, leaving behind cries of Chinese Kung Fu, Spider-Man, Superman among the crowd. Zheng moved along the road carrying Junjin on his hand. His physical prowess was extraordinary and allowed him to leap from car to car relying on only his physical strength. Furthermore, the most basic movement technique he exchanged eased this task even more. He barely broke a sweat on his way to the White House at a speed that wasn't much slower than a sedan driving on a highway at full speed. Junjin on the other hand wasn't so well. Cold air stuffed his mouth when he opened it, so he had to keep his lips closed. Zheng wasn't aware of Junjin's condition. He repeatedly asked him for the direction while he ran. After a while of no response from Junjin, he finally looked down and found the man's eyes were rolling over. It shocked him to quickly stop by a black sedan and carefully channel chi into his body. Junjin nearly fell unconscious at the time. The chi felt like a stream of warmth that rushed into his body and stopped by the navel area. This stimulation brought him back from the unconsciousness. The first thing he did was saying, "Stop," then he breathed heavily. Zheng said apologetically. "Sorry, I forgot you haven't received any enhancements. You're still a normal person. You probably couldn't stand the speed I was running. Are you okay?" Junjin forced a smile on his face. "Is this the strength of a member in this realm? Ho ho, that was beyond my expectation. Like a scene taken from a sci-fi or wuxia movie. Was that the lightness martial art? It was impressive, felt like I riding a car at full speed." Zheng chuckled then asked. "Which direction is the White House at?" "Ho ho. Sorry for that. I will channel chi into your body when I run so it won't happen again." Junjin's thoughts paused for an instant when he heard the noun chi. He quickly pulled his mind back to the present, then looked left and right. He pointed at a building and said, "That way. With the speed that you were going, it should be about 30 minutes from here. Can we come to an agreement? Your speed is too hard to bear. Why don't you let me down and I can walk?" Before he finished talking, Zheng had picked him up and begun to run. The cold air blowing at his face forced him to close his eyes. However, he didn't feel the suffocation that he experienced before, and he could open a slim gap with his eyes. That was when he finally noticed a stream of warmth coming from Zheng's hand that entered and stimulated his body. The unbearable feeling was gone and a comfortable sensation replaced it. "Is this chi? I couldn't imagine the things from wuxia novels are actually real," Junjin said with surprise. Zheng laughed. "This is God's realm. God has a lot of inconceivable things you can exchange, from Eastern mythology, to Western mythology, to future technology, from movies to anime to comic. Even veterans like us still haven't figured out how many things you can exchange from God. It's almost infinite. Anyway, you will have to survive first. Then become stronger, until you are strong enough to live in this realm. Then you can return to the real world. Junjin felt tempted, especially after he experienced the marvelous chi. A desire for God's dimension took root in his heart. Though the state he was in halted his thoughts. The cold air still felt sharp to the skin despite the chi. He had to put all his effort on keeping his eyes open to distinguish the direction. While Zheng ran, he also talked. The White House is there. Zheng ran down from the highway following Junjin's direction. He made a turn on a street and a long, straight path lay in front of him. At the end of the path was where the President of the United States resided, the White House. Countless civilians surrounded the White House causing a ruckus. Some people held up banners and cried slogans. Some attempted to rush into the White House. The numerous guards and fences stopped these civilians, but they couldn't stop the noises. Having failed to achieve their goals, the civilians cried even louder. Another group of people was pointing at the dish floating in the sky. 1,000 meters above the ground, and under the sky fortress was a dish stopped there quietly. We made it in time. Team Pacific didn't blast the White House in one shot, or we would have to run for the next several days like Xian said. Zheng let out a sigh of relief when he saw the White House still stood intact. He put down Junjin. The two slowly walked toward the White House but were stopped by the packed crowd. Zheng had no choice but to pick Junjin up again and forced his way through the crowd. In just a second, they carved a path in the crowd. Zheng suddenly put Junjin down and said in a low volume. Hide among the crowd. The other team's Psyche Force user has detected us. Keep yourself hidden. Don't show any abnormality from normal people. You should be able to hide with so many people here. He jumped on top of several normal people and leaped again from their heads. By the time these people noticed, Zheng had already crossed the metal fences and through the wall into the White House. A person gliding in the air looked exactly like Kung Fu from Chinese wuxia novels. This person was stepping on people's heads but no one suffered any harm. Zheng safely landed on the ground and the crowd around he was shocked. For a few seconds, the noises halted and then the crowd erupted again. Zheng didn't bother to pay attention to the crowd. He held Tiger Soul in his hand and was prepared to strike the dish with the technique he had only just discovered. 1,000 meters weren't impossible, even though that technique would leave him critically injured. This technique that he hadn't tested yet could be a double-edged sword. The federal police from the White House quickly came over and drew their guns at Zheng. Their nerves were tensed upon seeing the large crimson sword he was holding. At a time when the aliens were invading the Earth and society was in a turmoil, important political figures being attacked by psychopaths would be catastrophic. If Zheng were to show even a hint of abnormal behavior, these police would open fire. Right, high-tech weapons. The weapons the aliens use are also high-tech weapons, so the dragon's hard necklace should serve some degree of defense. It just wouldn't defend against the main weapon of the fortress. Zheng looked at the police and their guns then ignored them. His eyes moved to the dish above, pondering if he should enter dragon transformation and fly up to attack. The dragon form was his only method to come into close range with the dish after the sky sticks became forbidden. While he was pondering, the dish lowered itself and stopped at 100 meters above the ground. A blue light shone down from a port on the center of its underside onto an area 10 meters in front of Zheng. Fire. Looks similar to the fire from the destroyer in the movie. Didn't know this little dish can use the same attack. Should I attack? In the movie, attacking the destroyer while it is firing will trigger intense explosions. Aren't these people from Team Pacific scared? Zheng was thinking if he should attack. The blue light rippled like water. When the light returned to still, a Caucasian with blonde hair was standing in the light. He looked about 24 years old with an extremely attractive face and over 6 feet tall. Such a person in the real world could easily become a top celebrity. However, he would be seen flaunting in God's realm. The Caucasian was dressed in a classic Duke's attire that one would associate with European vampires. A red velvet cape draped over his back. The slightly gloomy expression on top of his face and clothes made him look even more like a vampire in Legends. He was holding a rose that was wilting at visible pace. Zheng looked at Junjin then at the vampire cosplay Caucasian. He said in a low volume. Traitors are no match for real Westerners. Authentic Westerners are the real flaunt. The Caucasian said. I am the leader of Team Pacific, Lionheart Grims. You can call me Lionheart. An equally flaunting name. Reminds me of some invincible main characters in novels. That sparkling blonde hair and attractive face, did he altered his appearance through God? Zheng thought with malicious intent. He stared at the blonde Caucasian and said in a serious tone. Leader of Team China, Zhengjia. Lionheart smiled with elegance. I know of you. Zhengjia, the leader of Team China and Team Devil. You and your clone are both incredible people. Based on what I know, your clone is acknowledged as the strongest person in the realm by multiple teams. And you are not far off for edging over Team Celestial. Your potentials are extraordinary. Zheng paused for a moment before he spoke. It seems like you are familiar with me. I don't know you. Lionheart bowed. You wouldn't know a side character like me. I am nothing more than a nobody who struggles to survive in this realm. Someone who wishes to slowly grow and avoid anyone powerful. If it isn't for the final hour coming near, I wouldn't have taken the leader position. Hee. The good old days when you won't be put into a team battle without a leader. Now, team battles are forced upon you whether the team has a leader or not. I dislike this. Zheng had entered the third stage the moment Lionheart appeared and emulated Honglu's thinking process. The chance of obtaining useful information from this man was slim, but people on the level of Honglu could make great use of even the vaguest information. Xian on the other hand was on a non-human level. You mean the last time, or in an earlier team battle, the other team gave you information of me and my clone? Someone that knows us well, Neos. No, a smart person like Neos wouldn't be oblivious of the meaning of the final battle. He wouldn't leak our team's information given our relationship, unless you had the upper hand and forced him to trade it with the team's survival. Yet, I don't see that you have the strength to put him in this circumstance. He's someone only slightly below Xian. That means you encountered Team Celestial, am I right? Zheng said as though he was speaking with himself. His eyes fixed on Lionheart with a sharp gaze. Lionheart was surprised. He laughed and said, "Your guesses are accurate. Indeed, we one of the two strongest teams after battling an unknown team. We were the mice under the claws of the cat in that movie. We almost died for their amusement. We were lucky a civil war broke out in their team. They eventually came to terms, but we managed to escape death with the opportunity. Team Celestial's leader knew it became impossible to wipe our team and decided to negotiate in the end. We paid an expensive price for a fraction of the information they possessed about this realm." Zheng continued talking to himself. Team Celestial. Adam is more intelligent than Neos. He wouldn't do anything pointless. Why did he give you the information about me and my clone? I can only guess you are related to us, yet I don't know you. So, it must be my clone who knows you. And the two of you are bonded by animosity, I get it? Your clone joined Team Devil. He joined before my clone. Is it? My clone is searching for you in the realm because he wants to kill you. The elegance faded from Lionheart's face. A wicked expression took its place, but the elegance quickly returned. He laughed in a low volume and said, "That's beside the point for today. I am not here to discuss who I am. Since you are Team China's leader, let's talk about what we will be up against." Beside the point. Zheng chuckled coldly. He lowered his head and twirled the hair on his forehead. Okay. Let's treat it as beside the point. What are you planning to do? Taking the risk to meet me before a team battle begins. You can't be here to establish a connection. Risk. Lionheart rubbed his nose and gave off a cheerful laughter. I don't feel there's any danger meeting you. Did you switch the positions we are in? The one in danger should be you, especially when you are standing under the dish and your teammates aren't with you. Team China doesn't even have a Psyche Force user. Haha. Are you retarded? Zheng calmly looked at him. Bring your whole team if you want to fight me, and please use the weapons on the fortress. Or else do you want to die? Lionheart was dumbfounded for a few seconds before he laughed out. I am not bothering to debate with you. Not like I am here with malintent anyway. What do you think of an alliance with us, and several other teams? For the final battle and to fight against Team Devil, which is growing with madness every day. Team Celestial is communicating with every team. Once a team's strength is verified, they will be able to join the Angel Alliance. You still don't know what your clone did, right? He's gone insane. Through Lionheart's narration, Zheng learned that his clone invented a method to control any person who hadn't reached the fourth stage at the mental level. The control he instills is permanent. One couldn't reverse the change that happened even after reaching the fourth stage. What a terrifying man he is. He's not seeking for the victory anymore. He desires to control all the teams in order to control this realm. Body control is nothing when he controls the soul. Lionheart said in an agitated tone while looking at Zheng. However, Zheng didn't show any unnecessary emotion. It felt as though he deemed what his clone was doing as normal. Lionheart paused for a moment before continuing. What do you mean by this? Are you going to let his insanity continue? Zheng gave a cold laughter. Insanity? Why does insanity exist? Damn your insanity. You speak as though you are justice. Do you think I don't know what kind of people you are? How many in Team Celestial are actually acting with goodwill? As for you, if I am not wrong, you enslave your team like cattle to feed you points and rewards. You kill them to keep your team rating low while your strength become disproportionately strong. You are probably among the people who are selected into Team Devil. And my clone killed your clone. Lionheart laughed and clapped his hands. Impressive. This ability to think of so much in such a short amount of time puts me to shame. You're correct. I was cloned into Team Devil and your clone killed him. Your clones issued an order to all the teams under his control, an order for arrest that included all the people he will kill. Any team that killed these people will be rewarded or even freed once he confirmed it. Don't feel happy yet. I am not the only one on there. You and your whole team are on the order. Your clone has decided to kill you. Haha. Are you sure you can ignore it? Zheng shook his head. I can't. But that does not have anything to do with you. I won't trust this Angel Alliance. Instead of taking a stab on the back, I'd rather put my life on the bet to fight my clone. If I die, it will be a blissful death compared to being framed and backstabbed and die in grief. Clean your neck and prepare yourselves in this movie. Team China will surpass Team Celestial and Team Devil. We are the strongest team in this realm. Lionheart chuckled. He leaned his body slightly in a bow and said, Since you have decided to ignore our wish for peace, we have the responsibility as a member of the Angel Alliance to eradicate the potential threat that is Team China. You can't come to the sky and we can't come down before the fire begins. This conversation is the limit we can achieve at this time. Farewell then. I believe you can show me the prowess of your clone the next time we meet. Or at least a fraction of his strength. Haha. The hologram figure faded in his laughter. The dish that was floating 100 meters above the ground rose and flew into the sky fortress. Zheng finally relaxed the grip on Tiger's soul. He had the urge to attack the dish when it was close to the ground and would have attacked if Lionheart didn't mention they couldn't come to the sky. Why didn't we get this message? Is the leader the only person capable of receiving it? Or is it a limitation only placed on Team Pacific to limit their influence advantage? Damn it. Seeing a trash and can't attack, just wait. Wait for Xian to come. While Zheng pondered, he didn't notice the civilians and cops were shocked. Politicians ran out from the White House and all looked at him. That's basically the situation. Inside a meeting hall in the White House, Zheng narrated his encounter with Team Pacific's leader. He was so focused on the event that he became unaware of using the catchphrase of a certain person in this team. I apologize for being too selfish. I was overwhelmed by rage when I imagined they were a team that enslaved newbies. I almost couldn't contain the rage and wanted to destroy those trash, and every time I thought of the things that happened to my clone in Team Devil I acted too rash. We are at a disadvantaged position in terms of influence and I rejected the other team's offer. Sorry, guys. This movie could be difficult for us. The conversation between a human and an alien who seemed to have known each other shocked the civilians and the politicians in the White House. The politicians immediately invited Zheng inside. Unfortunately, Zheng knocked down the guards who came to invite him with ease. After seeing Zheng ignored their handguns, the politicians finally offered a real invitation and got the civilians under control. In their words, any little thing could lead to drastic changes in society during a time of crisis. They couldn't control the source of the turmoil, but in the very least, they could limit the turmoil from spreading. That was the process up till I entered the White House. I didn't know what to say to them, and to avoid clashing with your plans, I didn't say anything. I let them know that my comrades are coming, so we would just wait. Zheng said with a bitter laughter. The rest of the team nodded, aside from Xian, who was using the laptop as if he didn't hear anything, and Xuelin watching him with pleasure from the side. The two of them felt like they didn't belong here. Their focus was the laptop in front of them. Zheng coughed, seeing the response. Yet, Xian and Xuelin didn't waver away from the computer screen. Veins emerged on his forehead and he exploded. God damn. Say something, please. Or was I doing a stand-up comedy? It wasn't a stand-up, but this now sounds like he has the potential. Cheng Xiao and Hung thought. Xian slowly raised his head and calmly said. Can you sense what stage Team Pacific's leader unlocked? Zheng paused for a few seconds and thought. He didn't expect Xian to actually respond. Unlocked stage, it was only an image of him, so I couldn't sense his stage. However, he's a leader. He should be at least at the second stage. Being cloned into Team Devil means God has acknowledged his potential. I guess he should be between stages 3 and 4, but haven't achieved stage 4 yet. Xian nodded. There's a high probability he's at the third stage. Which means he can emulate another person's thinking process to a certain degree. How much depends on his aptitude. You mentioned he encountered Team Celestial and fought them. So he probably met Adam face to face. You're right. Zheng interrupted Xian. That explains why waited for us at the White House. Even if he only emulates 20 to 30% of Adam, his intelligence would be pretty impressive. Did I ask about his intelligence? I was only talking about my fault. I threw away our chance for peace due to my personal feelings. This battle is going down to a fight in the end. Are we going to be fine with this? Xian finally moved away from the laptop. He sneered at Zheng. Peace. Do you believe absolute good or evil exist in this world? You're assuming the other party is a gentleman who's trustworthy. But he's someone that enslaved newbies. Can you trust those people? You said Team Pacific joined the Angel Alliance after Team Celestial failed to wipe them. He wouldn't have joined the alliance otherwise, and he wouldn't be joining with good intents. He's someone who cares only about raising his own power, because he wouldn't need the alliance, nor would he fear your clone when he can overwhelm your clone with his own strength. Even without these reasons, waking up our members important enough for us to wipe them or at least capture their psyche force user. Keep in mind that we are disadvantaged in terms of influence, but our strength is strong on the whole. Right? We are strong. Zheng became increasingly excited as Xian went on. He gripped his fists tightly and said. Looks like Xian excited him again. It's going to end up in a battle of the mad hot-blooded man. The rest of Team China thought. And you are the leader of Team China. Xian looked down at the laptop. Since you're the leader, you hold the right to determine the team's future. Even if the direction you choose is wrong, it will be the way we head toward until it's proven wrong. Zheng sat on the chair and let out a long breath. He gave Xian a deep look, then said to the team. Let's try to come up with a story to tell the American politicians. They are the source of our influence in this world. Is that a phantom feeling? Can't help but feel that Xian is hiding something. Is he giving his last words and teaching me how to be a better leader? I hope I am wrong. While Team China arrived at the White House, Team Pacific and their leader, Lionheart, returned to a gigantic space vessel that was floating a short distance outside the Earth. The vessel was so huge that one could consider it a continent. Too bad the peace bait failed. Team China's leader is a total retard who only wants to fight us. Can't believe we got fucking matched with such a retard. I want to tear him. Lionheart had none of the elegance that he displayed in front of Zheng. He looked furious with bloodshot eyes and messy hair. His fingernails were growing out. He was still handsome but nowhere near cool. He was like an abandoned dog. Calm down, leader. Calm. We are safe. You don't have to be complaining so hard. Plan our moves accordingly and we still have a good chance to wipe Team China. We have to at least kill Zheng Aha before he becomes as powerful as his clone. Kill him while he's still in the infant stage. Two men sat near Lionheart. One appeared serene and refined. His age was similar to Lionheart with an average appearance. However, his closed eyes gave off a mysterious feeling. The other man was a muscular Caucasian approximately 37 years old. He wore an eye-catching leather jacket. His body was covered in tattoos like a middle-aged thug. He was chewing on a piece of chicken thigh non-stop. The one who spoke was the man with closed eyes. Lionheart took a deep breath and calmed himself. He combed his hair with his fingers then sat down on the sofa next to the younger man. Damn it! What kind of freaking rules are this? Forbids using individual flying devices, forbids attacking Team China before the aliens attack, forbids the aliens from giving us a saucer before the humans obtain their first saucer. What kind of garbage rules are these? That's making us sit here and wait for Team China to come. The man's lips twitched as though he just gave off a smile, but he immediately turned to a serious expression. You are overthinking. The restrictions are only there to even out the advantage we have in influence. These aren't hard restrictions that will make God erase us. You can stand on a flying device and not get erased. The device just wouldn't work. We couldn't attack because the dish couldn't get down to the ground and we couldn't use its weapons. And the aliens won't give us a saucer, we can get one by ourselves. Lionheart looked excited. He pondered for a few moments with his head lowered then laughed coldly. He said to the man with closed eyes. How does the rank 3 Shaka's enhancement feel, Julian? You seem strong with your eyes closed. Julian's lips twitched again and said in a calm tone. The power can't be shown like this. The enhancement is different from what I expected. Keeping my eyes closed is only used to store my energy. The transmigration to the 6 paths and the treasures of the heavens need energy to activate, so I won't have any combat strength before I open my eyes. Once I open my eyes, I have to finish the fight in an extremely short amount of time. It's difficult to gauge the enhancement's power, probably weaker than the Vampire Prince bloodline and the many blood abilities you have. Lionheart nodded then looked to the middle-aged man who was still eating. He shook his head then said with a cold tone. Keep the newbies inside the alien base. We will exchange 2 more mind control devices after the movie to get them to hand out their points and rewards. Now then, seize a saucer. We will give Team China a surprise attack.